Hey guys, James MC Reviews here. I'm here with Lex, one of my best friends. We've been friends since...
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten? Yeah.
Yeah. That's when we met, I think.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
Really great friends, big fans of Star Wars. Him more so than me. When did you get into Star Wars and what is your, knowledge?
When I got into Star Wars, I don't know. All I know is that I have 3 VHS tapes of the original trilogy, which I can show you,
Right.
Whenever you come over again.
Right.
How much I know a good fair amount on all things prequel trilogy, original trilogy, sequel trilogy, even some Old Republic, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, see, I don't know much outside of the movies, so he's a bigger fan than me, but to quote my cousin, everyone who you talk about Star Wars with thinks that they know more than you. So, so we just got out of Rise of Skywalker, and before we talk about that, we should talk about what we thought of the other Disney Star Wars movies. You know, Star Wars has been something that I really wanted to cover on this channel for a while, but I didn't really know how. The closest I got was putting Solo on my top 10 worst of 2018. But I wanted to do a really in-depth video of what's kind of been going wrong with the Disney Star Wars movies.
Disney,
but
that's what's wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, I just, never had the time. Other things got in the way. In terms of the movies, what did you think of all the movies leading up to this?
For sequel?
Yeah.
So, The Force Awakens, when I first saw it, it was maybe within the first week that it came out. It was in theaters. At first, I thought it was pretty good. It was a pretty good startup to the whole new age of Jedi and Sith and all that.
Right.
I thought the designs were spectacular. They kept in tune with the original concept to a certain degree, basically saying, hey, we were this, but we are also new, if that makes sense.
Right. It was basically their safe zone. It did play it really safe. It did steal a lot from A New Hope, almost to a fault. A lot of people criticized it as, oh, it's just a remake of A New Hope. But I think the Nostalgia Critic said it best in his review. If they want to branch out into new ideas, then they need to show that they can do a proper Star Wars movie first to sort of ease the new generation and the old generation into this new story and new characters and everything. And I like Force Awakens. It hasn't really aged all that well since it came out, but like you sort of said, it is a nice startup and a good safe zone. Rogue One is objectively the best. It's the best looking, it's the best shot, it's the best edited. It feels like it has the most stakes. Even though the characters are not very well written and there's not a whole lot to them, which I mean there doesn't really need to be because they're all gonna die. But it still
actually adds to the movie because
it still felt intense.
Right, because these characters in Rogue One, they're rebels. They they're pretty much nobodies, and that's how the start of the movie pretty much says it. These are people being nobodies, and they're gonna live and die pretty much as that, but they are making an impact.
Right.
Basically.
It feels like it has more weight. And Last Jedi, the controversial Rian Johnson opus, I suppose. We actually rewatched it right as we were going into this one.
Skipping the
when you skip the cantina stuff, or not the cantina stuff, the casino planet stuff.
Canto bite my ass.
When you skip all of that stuff, there are still parts that drag, there are still parts that don't make sense, and there are parts that are just laughable. But the movie is visually interesting, and, you know, the storyline between Kylo and Rey, you know, the inner conflict between those two, it's about the only interesting thing that's in that movie, because everything else is either just pointless, stupid, or boring.
When I first saw Last Jedi, it was kind of slow for me. Like at first when I see any Star Wars movie, I'm gonna be like, ooh, Star Wars. But
I enjoy things that I remember.
Exactly. And that did go for this movie. But for Last Jedi, my first run through of it, I didn't really notice anything bad because like I was just like in a moment. It's a new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
But of course, like as you go on, you start to notice more and more.
Right. Like why didn't Holdo just tell them the plan instead of keeping them in the dark? Why what did they do to Luke's character? Why all this other stuff that does genuinely ruin the movie. But like I said, you know, I'll say this, not as bad as Solo. Like at least it wasn't boring. Well,
Right.
parts, but so with that kind of hit and miss track record that Disney has been putting out, I was really skeptical going into this one.
I was
like,
kind of hoping.
I didn't have too many high hopes. I just wanted the trilogy to end decently. Like even if it went like just like my main point was just don't be boring.
And they succeeded.
Yeah, the good news. Yeah, the good news is the movie isn't boring. The bad news is the movie is fucking terrible. This movie is so bad.
It's.
Oh well, I shouldn't be. I should be fair. We should talk about the things that we actually like about the movie.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it?
Not as much as I hoped, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, so what did you like about it?
What I liked, one thing that was actually put on later on in the movie, like way later on, spoiler warning.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil shit in the movie. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've already seen it. So if you haven't, click off now because we're gonna spoil shit. So anyway, continue.
There was going to be a scene of Luke training Leia, as in like lightsaber training, and I did enjoy seeing that. The CGI for younger Luke and Leia,
it wasn't as bad as Rogue One, but it was still pretty noticeable.
For me, I'm an artist, and I like nice little craftsmanship stuff. And her lightsaber, when it was revealed, it had an aged look. And yeah, that's how it. That was one of my favorite moments.
The movie does about like 85% of the movie does look really nice. It does have some really nice looking like shots, and it keeps with the use of like practical effects like the other movies did, which I really appreciate.
It had an ambiance.
There are a lot of like, as I put it, poster shots. Like there are a lot of poster shots in the Last Jedi, and there are some good ones here. The shot of all the Star Destroyers with the sky with the lightning in the background, that was really cool.
The dark sky and the lightning, which I do have to say, it was really nice to see the Imperator One Star Destroyers back again.
Yeah.
The ones that were used mainly in A New Hope.
I think the cast has been relatively consistent throughout all the movies, and they're still really good here. The thing is, they aren't really, at least the side characters, they aren't really given like that much to do. Like I get it, it's about Rey and Kylo. It's about their story. It's about their struggle and their fight against their urges between the dark and the light side. But then you have all these characters that are basically like you had good setups for them in the previous movie, the previous movies, and they're just kind of there, and they don't really do all that much. Poe and Finn are just, kind of there, like, they're just there to be, like, the bickering, and I call them, like, the bickering married couple, because, honestly, Finn has more chemistry with Poe than he has with any of the female characters in the movie. And they're just kind of there, and they don't really do all that much. They come across, like, a few new characters that are just kind of there and gone. They show up again briefly for the final battle, but they're basically useless.
The emotions are still pretty on point. In the final battle, when one of the X-Wings, gets shot down, he has, like, genuine terror and fear in his face. Of course, it's not genuine because it's not actually happening, but it's amazing acting. That's how.
I mean, I say that, but also, like, there's also no real stakes, because you know nothing bad is gonna happen. Like, the people that are supposed to win are gonna win, the people that are supposed to lose are gonna lose, the people that are supposed to die are gonna die, and the people that are supposed to live, live. So, like, even when they try to add stakes and show emotion, like, that emotion isn't, like, conveyed, like, not conveyed, what's the word I'm looking for? It isn't, like, it doesn't affect the viewer, because nothing bad is gonna happen. I mean, they do really try, but they don't do a really good job.
Honestly, I kind of wish some of them died. Not just the one.
Like we made fun of this when we were rewatching The Last Jedi, when they're shooting on all of the, like, transport ships right before Holdo does the whole lightspeed collision thing. I was joking, like, I'm so glad none of the lasers are hitting the ship that the main characters are on, and that's a lot of what happens here. It's like no major main characters die. They made you think at the beginning that Chewie was gonna die, but they just brought him back. Like, can characters in a galaxy far, far away just survive explosions? Like,
probably. Of course, they did have a little logic to why Chewie survived. They had 2 transports.
Speaking of dead characters, we should probably address the elephant in the room. We'll get to him in a second, but Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Princess Leia.
I forgot about
They
that.
did this girl so fucking dirty in this movie. Like, so, so not only is she barely in this, like, I mean, which you could argue, well, she's barely in this, so it doesn't really, leave that big an impact. But that's exactly the point. So. That's exactly the point. Like, this was her last performance, like her last on-screen performance before she passed away, and she goes out with a fucking whimper. Yeah, so, like, they try to do what Luke did, that, like, do they have it, like, did they have her, like, enter his mind or something?
I want to say, so, it's obvious Leia was strong in the Force to a degree, so I want to say it was, like, some sort of, like, mind thing. It's like,
I thought they were gonna do what Luke did in The Last Jedi, where they have her, like, project herself from, like, miles away and, like, try to talk Ben out of it. But no, they just had her, like, lie down, I guess, project herself into her mind using all of the power and strength she had left, and then Rey stabs Kylo thinking that it's him when it's, I guess it's actually Leia, and then she dies, and that's it.
Right.
That's her, and she doesn't get a proper, to an extent, she doesn't get a proper send-off. I mean, you have that scene with her and Luke at the end, but, like, it's not enough to make up for what you did to her.
She has to die properly.
After you comatose her in Last Jedi, only to bring her back,
just to throw her away again.
Yeah, like, that was fucking insulting. As you mentioned, Palpatine is back in this.
It's no secret that they were going to bring Palpy Boy back. But what they did is they mentioned it in the opening crawl, that was a big no.
Well, I mean, I don't so much have a problem with them like spoiling it from the get-go or mentioning it from the opening crawl, because like anyone with a fucking brain could guess that Palpatine was going to be the main villain. But
Right.
like, my question is why and how? Like, you had good,
How,
you had like, for one, how did he survive all those years? Like,
That's actually very easy for me to answer.
wait, really?
Yeah.
How?
So
Okay.
Sheev Palpatine, right? Go back to episode 3.
No thanks.
Why? It was better than this trilogy. To the next time. So Sheev Palpatine is talking to Anakin Skywalker, telling the tragedy of Darth Plagueis. How Darth Plagueis found out a way to manipulate the midichlorians to produce life. And that's basically what got Anakin going like that. And it wasn't said directly, but Palpatine was Darth Plagueis' apprentice. Palpatine murdered his master in search of his own apprentice. And so it's not too crazy to assume that he used that power on himself when Vader chucked him down a mine shaft, pretty much. It's not that far-fetched. It's a little crazy,
Okay,
but it's not that far-fetched.
so you, through very convenient and nerdy explanation, you explain the how, I'll give you that.
Right.
But you also have the why. Like, you had a good thing going in Last Jedi, just having Kylo Ren have no master, just like, you know, having him go off, lead this First Order, and trying to take over the galaxy by himself. No Snoke, no like outside influencer, and you know, maybe he finds his own way, like on his own, without someone like pulling the strings in the background. Like,
Right.
you had a good thing going with that, and I guess because fan service, you gotta
That's
have.
actually something that they did pretty good, like fixing up some of the Rian Johnson mistakes. They did actually provide a backstory to Snoke. He was literally a toy. So yeah,
I mean, but you still didn't really know, like. Oh, I mean, so wait, so did Palpatine just will Snoke into existence without giving him any, like, he didn't give him any, like, what is it, like, lineage or heritage or anything to go off of? Like, he was just nothing?
I want to say maybe he was like a clone of
Because, like,
someone.
because, I mean, that sort of makes it a little bit more underwhelming, because, like.
Right. In the opening scene, not opening, but one of the opening scenes, there was like a large container with a bunch of, I'm guessing, failed Snoke bodies.
Right.
And so that's like what's leading me to think that he's a clone, maybe. And maybe he was like pretty much manufactured, like using some dark force energy.
Okay. I mean, I still think it was a terrible decision. Like, I
Right.
still think that they had a good thing going, but whatever,
They
it's
did.
done now.
But then again, JJ did have a lot to mop up. So I'm a little on the defensive, but I'm still on the offensive.
So basically, the entire story of this is basically Rey is trying to once again find out more about her past, and she's trying to find where the emperor is, so that she can supposedly kill him and like restore order to the galaxy and all that. And along the way, she finds out that the Emperor is actually his grandfather, her grandfather.
Grandpappy.
So, Grandpappy. So, on the one hand, like, at least they finally give her a definitive like lineage and backstory. But on the other hand, number one, it doesn't make any sense, sort of, and number two, I kind of like the fact that her parents were. They may have been nobodies. They may have been someone. I just like the fact that we wouldn't get to know.
For me, like, I tend to want to press for information, so it gave me closure to an extent.
But like, why? That's another thing, is why did she have to be like related to one of the main characters? Because like that seemed pretty forced.
Yeah.
Literally none of the other movies set that up.
Right. Like, it is possible that maybe, just maybe, he, like, willed the Force to create a baby like he did with Anakin Skywalker. Little spoiler. So technically, Anakin is his son, too.
Right.
So it's not pretty crazy to basically will Rey's father, which Rey's father is the son of Palpy Boy. It's not crazy to think that he willed him into existence through like the Force, because that's what happened with Anakin.
So does sex just not exist in the Star Wars universe?
Apparently not.
Because everyone just appears out of nowhere, I suppose.
Everyone's like kissing in the movies, so maybe that's what's happening.
We'll fucking get to that. So I mean, the movie is kind of like, it starts off pretty like by the books, like, but it also starts off pretty rushed as well. It's kind of just them going from area to area, planet to planet, this character doing one thing, this character doing another thing, and it kind of, it slows down a little towards the middle and, or towards the, like, around the third act, but it kind of keeps that, like, rushed pace throughout the whole thing, and it was kind of, like, imbalanced. Like, I feel like there should have been a lot more time spent in certain areas and stuff like that.
Right. Like, this is the last, movie in the Skywalker saga.
Right.
Like, it wouldn't really have hurt to stretch the movie for maybe like another hour or two.
I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know if 2 hours.
I don't know if it's endgame worthy. I don't know if it's worthy of being like 3 hours long.
Right,
but
Disney
at the very least, slow down. Like give us a second to breathe. Like they're kind of just like dropping all this stuff on us like all at once, and you're not really giving it a chance to register. But yeah, it kind of starts off really like by the books, going from one place to another, looking for this thing that leads them to where the Emperor is hiding. And they bring back the like Force connection between Kylo and Rey, except it's somehow a lot stronger this time around, to the point where they can actually like take stuff from each other. Like
my necklace.
It's like they're practically in the same area as them, which made things a little bit confusing. I'm like, wait, so is he actually there now, or is he still just a Force projection? Like, I don't know, it got kind of messy for me.
Yeah, that... having
him be in one place and then another, and it just is kind of weird.
Yeah, that was confusing for me too, but there was like one split second where it did provide a nice little transition thing when Rey was in his quarters and he was on the planet.
Yeah, there was a cool scene, but I'm still like,
because like when the camera was panning around.
Yeah, no, I know how they did it, and it was cool. It was a cool scene. It was cool transitions, but still, It made things kind of confusing. Like, wait, so who's where?
Right. For me, it wasn't that hard to be like, okay, Kylo is still on the planet, and Rey is still in the room.
But then at that, like, when they're like on the water area, like when she's exploring like the crashed Death Star or whatever it was, and
Death Star 2.
Yeah, and she was all of a sudden Kylo is there. And
Right.
yeah, it was weird, but like I still do think that for the most part the conflict between those two was relatively well handled. Although the resolution to Kylo and what makes him decide to turn is a bit, like I said, a bit rushed and also a bit out of nowhere. So like they bring back Han Solo, which
For a split second, I'm kind of torn on believing whether it was his subconscious talking to him or if it was the Force Ghost, because Force Ghosts tend to have like a blue aura around them.
right.
So it may have been his conscious.
Yeah, but I mean, still, that made me laugh. I'm like, oh, come on, come on, Harrison Ford, you're better than this.
Stab him again.
I was waiting for him to stab him again. Basically, Han Solo appears out of nowhere, similar to The Force Awakens, gives him a little pep talk, and they tying everything full circle. He does the I don't know, or I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Will you help me, Dad? And they do that again. And then only this time, instead of stabbing him, he throws the lightsaber in the water, which I'm like, don't you need that if you're gonna go fight the fucking Emperor? Like,
yeah, like,
you don't have a lightsaber, you don't have a ship. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Getting into the third act, which is kind of where all hell breaks loose.
that's where they like decided to start their advance, right?
Yeah, it's basically what I'm calling the endgame climax, because it's basically very similar. It's got the same moment of like, they do the thing like Endgame did, where it's like, oh, we need backup. Suddenly, every single ship in the history of the universe is just there. And I even leaned over to you. I was like, Avengers Assemble? And like, they all are like charging into battle, blowing up all these different Star Destroyers, and they're riding into battle on fucking space horses. Like,
right.
It's ridiculous. It's insane. Meanwhile, Rey is going, confronting, not Kylo, Palpatine. And in order to, she obviously wants to kill him, but if she does, then
doing that, his consciousness would be transferred to her.
And then the cycle continues, and then we get another shitty trilogy with her as the villain. But yeah, so ultimately she doesn't do it. Kylo shows up in the nick of time. They
just to be pushed away.
Yeah, they both like fight off like the Knights of Ren, and then they both, for disobeying the Emperor, they both get their life forces drained.
Right.
Which, sure, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, I did like seeing the original, like, not really original, but like younger. The younger Palp.
The prequel's Emperor, basically.
Pretty much, because
with the yellow eyes and everything.
Right. Even though the scene was kind of odd, it did give me like a feel-good feeling seeing, because with the dark hood over, there were like no features. It was just complete black. Yeah. And then you see the yellow eyes.
Yeah. Although that scene did have a few issues with like the amount of like flashing lights, which I get the lightning and everything, but honestly,
Sith.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get epilepsy watching that shit. Like, it was like too many sensory overload, too many flashing lights in my face. But yeah, so they get their life forces drained. Kylo tries to stand up, only to get like force pushed off a cliff. And then as if this couldn't get any more endgamey, Rey stands up, picks up the lightsabers, does the whole like Wakanda forever, Wonder Woman deflecting the lightning thing. The Emperor even is like, "You can't kill me, I am all the Sith in one." And Rey is like, and I was about to say Iron Man. But she's like, "I'm all of the Jedi." And with that, the Emperor is defeated. And then I guess she uses all of her life force to do that, and then she falls to the ground, and then
he fucking climbs out of a hole, and he's like limping over to her. I'm like,
the whole time I was like, oh God, please, because I had heard about this. My friend was talking about potential plot leaks for this movie, and he mentioned that at one point there was a quote-unquote Reylo moment where Kylo and Rey kiss to save Rey's life or something like that, and I was hoping, praying that was going to be in there, because...
And it was?
It was. Like, he's like stumbling over to her, he picks her up, and he does the whole, like... So that it's established early on that the Force can now, like, heal wounds, I suppose. They show this a couple times, like
it's a it was never shown before, but it was an ancient, like, Jedi trick.
Okay.
Like Force trick. So.
Okay, so yeah, they show it like when she's healing Kylo's stab wound, and she does it again, but I forget when.
Healing a giant eel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. But yeah, so she does that, or he does that for her to bring her back to life, and they look at each other, and I'm like, kiss, 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 kiss. And then they did. I literally applauded.
You did.
I was
you freaked out.
I was the only one there. I was like, yes. I was so fucking happy.
And then they did the Finn and Rose pass out after kiss thing, except for Kylo, it wasn't passing out. He died.
To which the geniuses next to me go, that's a whole new way of getting ghosted.
Props to them.
Yeah, I was like, that is so fucking stupid. I just have to admire it, because, like,
I do like how he faded away. It's kind of like
basically the whole, like, last, like, 25 or so minutes of this movie is just a long, hard fuck you to the Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
There's an epilogue where she goes to Tatooine to, like, bury Luke and Leia's sabers. You know,
I kind of wished they left it at that, and she, like, stood up and looked in the sunset, but no, that's not.
Yeah, and then there's
happens.
just a random passerby with her space camel. She's like,
saying, like,
we've never had anyone here for several thousand years. Who are you?
It's like, I'm Rey. Rey who?
And I'm like, don't say it. Don't you dare say it.
And
don't
she, like,
fucking
looks
say
off
it.
to the distance where there's, like, a mini sandstorm, and
there's ghost versions of Luke and Leia, and she's like, I'm like, don't say it. Don't fucking say it. And she's like, Skywalker. And the double sense hits. I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. I don't even care if there are kids in this theater. Fuck you.
I don't think there were kids in there.
Okay, good. I'm like, who's taking their kids to see this at 10 o'clock at night?
Honestly, though?
But, yeah.
There were many things I did have problems with. Other than that, I'm kind of glad that it's over with.
Yes.
I'm glad that I got to see it, that there was an ending. So yeah, I'm hoping they're obviously gonna make more movies in the future. I'm sure, I do have hope that they're going to get better, because with spin-offs they have been doing okay. Mandalorian is technically a spin-off, but it's a series. Rogue One was the better one. I'm hoping they do a spin-off of maybe the Old Republic, because I want to see how that would go, how Disney would portray that, because it's not a Legends thing. There were talks of the pre-Clone Wars stuff, like thousands of years before all that. I just want to see how that would be portrayed, what a storyline would be, because there were a ton of Sith, a ton of Jedi. I want to see one of those things.
Disney, stop. Keep going with The Mandalorian. You know, I've heard great things about that. I still need to watch it.
Go with Kenobi.
Maybe Kenobi. I'm still on the fence. I don't know, but you know, Ewan McGregor is back for that, so
do it.
Could be good. Clone Wars, the final season. Keep going with that. But as far as the movies go, just stop. Like, you gave it your best shot. You failed horribly. You know, you started off strong, dipped slightly towards the middle, and then fucking tanked at the end. So you clearly, you know, you're not fit to do movies. Like, just go with your TV shows and just let the franchise be.
That or sell it back.
They're not gonna sell it back because it makes them too much money. Like, they just opened fucking Galaxy's Edge at Disney World, so they're not gonna sell it back. But like, just coast off of the merchandise. Coast off of the merchandising rights. You don't need to make any more movies.
Right.
Just leave the Skywalker series alone. Don't do any more stories, you know, outside of the TV shows. Just leave it be, and, you know, you like I said, you tried, you failed. Just enjoy your money, because I know you fucking will. What would you rate it out of 5?
2.5. No, not 2.5. Maybe 3.
I would go 2.5. I would go 2.5.
2.75.
2.75. Yeah, I mean, I think that about does it. You know, obviously, you've probably already seen the movie if you're watching this video, but let me know in the comments.
And if you haven't, shame on you.
But yeah, I mean, let me know in the comments what you think, like, without being, because I know anytime, you know, you talk about Star Wars with people online, especially nowadays, you get a bunch of whiny fanboys hurling their 5th grade insults at you. But like, if you do have, you know, genuine thoughts on Rise of Skywalker, I'd be curious to see, because I know that the recent movies can be very divisive. But yeah, thank you, Lex, for joining me. It's good seeing this with you, good talking about it. Be sure to, you don't have a YouTube channel yet, don't you?
I do, just there's nothing on it.
Okay.
There's nothing on it.
Well, I mean,
if you want to try and find it, it's Midnight Fox, capital M, capital F, with an E at the end of Fox.
Okay, and if I find it, I'll leave it in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like. As I said, tell me in the comments what you think of Rise of Skywalker if you've seen it, and out of all the Disney Star Wars movies, which one's your favorite and which one is your least favorite. And be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. All that stuff will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.